If you'd asked me a month ago, I would have said my life was perfect. 12 years married to my wife Emma, with 2 amazing kids and a cozy house in the suburbs. I thought we were solid, a team partners. But that all shattered when I got the call. It came out of nowhere, while I was in my office at work. I picked up my phone to hear a guy's voice, tense and angry. "Is this Alex?" he asked. "Yeah, who's asking?" I replied, already annoyed. Random calls don't usually lead to good things. "My name's Mike," he said. "And we need to talk about your wife." Instantly, a chill ran down my spine. "What about her?" Mike's voice cracked with anger. "She's been sleeping with me. 4 months. I sat back in my chair, my head spinning. At first, I wanted to laugh. Emma? Cheating on me? It sounded absurd. But Mike wasn't done. And it gets worse. She's been cheating on me too. With someone else. Wait, what? I managed to choke out. "Yeah," Mike said bitterly. "She's got a 3rd guy in the mix. I just found out about him. Thought you deserved to know the truth." For a moment, I didn't know what to say. Anger, disbelief, humiliation, it all hit me at once. "Why are you telling me this?" I finally asked, my voice tight. "Because I'm done playing her fool," Mike growled. "I want revenge. And I figured you might too." After that bombshell of a call, I spent the rest of the day piecing together my shattered reality. Emma had been acting strange lately, more distant, more secretive. At first, I brushed it off as stress or the usual ups and downs of married life. But now? It all made sense. The late nights at yoga class, the sudden obsession with her appearance, the way she guarded her phone like it held state secrets. Mike and I talked for hours over the next few days. He gave me details, names, dates, receipts. Turns out Emma had been seeing a contractor named Dave. A real piece of work, apparently. Dave was married to Sarah, a high-powered lawyer who had no idea what her husband was up to. That's when the plan started to take shape. Mike was out for blood, and honestly, so was I. Emma wasn't just wrecking my life. She was stomping on it with a smug grin. If she wanted to play games, fine. But I was about to change the rules. The plan was simple. Mike would keep tabs on Emma, while I confirmed her movements and dug deeper into her affair with Dave. Once we had all the pieces, we'd hit her, and Dave, where it hurt most. The wild card in all this was Sarah, Dave's wife. Mike and I agreed she needed to know the truth, and I volunteered to break it to her. It wasn't an easy conversation to have. I found Sarah's email online, thanks, LinkedIn, and sent her a message. "Hi Sarah. I know this might sound strange, but I have reason to believe your husband, Dave, is having an affair with my wife, Emma. I have evidence and think you deserve to know the truth. If you're willing to meet, I'll explain everything. Sincerely, Alex." To my surprise, she replied almost immediately. We arranged to meet at a coffee shop the next day. When I walked in, I spotted her right away. Sarah was the type of woman who radiates authority. Sharp suit, perfect hair, the kind of presence that makes people sit up straighter. She eyed me warily as I approached her table. "You're Alex?" she asked, her voice clipped. "That's me," I said, sliding into the seat across from her. "All right," she said, folding her arms. "Let's hear it." I laid everything out, Emma's suspicious behavior, Mike's revelations, the evidence we'd gathered so far. At first, Sarah looked skeptical, but as I showed her the proof, texts, photos, phone call logs, her expression darkened. "I can't believe this," she muttered, shaking her head. "Dave and I have been married for 15 years. 15. And this is what he's been doing." "Yeah," I said bitterly. "Welcome to the club." She sat in silence for a moment, staring at her coffee. Then she looked up at me, her eyes sharp and determined. "So what's the plan?" With Sarah on board, the plan took on a new dimension. She wasn't just angry, she was ready to go nuclear. As a lawyer, she knew exactly how to hit Dave where it hurt most, and she was more than happy to team up with Mike and me to bring both cheaters down. Mike continued keeping tabs on Emma, and one evening, he called me with the news we'd been waiting for. "They're meeting at a cabin by the lake," he said, his voice practically shaking with anticipation. "Tonight." I relayed the info to Sarah, and we made a plan to confront them together. When the evening rolled around, Sarah and I met in a parking lot near the cabin. Mike joined us shortly after, his face a mix of anger and excitement. I'll admit, seeing him in person was strange. This was the guy Emma had been sleeping with, after all. But right now, he was an ally. Ready for this? Sarah asked, her voice steady. More than ready, I said. We parked a little way down the road and approached the cabin on foot, staying out of sight. The anticipation was electric, like the calm before a storm. Through the cabin's window, we could see them, Emma and Dave, completely caught up in each other. It was disgusting, but it only fueled my determination. Sarah and I exchanged a nod. Then, with Mike trailing behind us, we stormed inside. The look on their faces when we burst through the door was priceless. Emma's jaw dropped, her face draining of color. Dave froze, his eyes darting between us like a deer caught in headlights. "Surprise," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. And that was just the beginning. Emma's face turned ghost white as her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Dave stood there frozen, his shirt half-buttoned, looking like a kid caught raiding the cookie jar. The scene was almost too perfect. It was the kind of moment you only dream of when you're plotting revenge. "What the hell is this?" Emma finally managed to choke out, her voice trembling. "Oh, it's exactly what it looks like," I said, crossing my arms and leaning casually against the doorframe. "Caught in the act. You didn't even bother locking the door, did you?" "Bold move, Emma. Real bold." Dave stammered, "Look man, this isn't what it looks like." "Don't," Sarah cut him off sharply, her voice like a whip. "Don't even try, Dave. I have all the proof I need. Texts. Call logs. Even the receipt for that sleazy little motel you took her to last month. So go ahead, explain how this isn't what it looks like." Dave's jaw tightened, but he didn't say another word. Emma, on the other hand, was still scrambling. "Alex, I can explain." "Explain." I interrupted, my voice dripping with mockery. "Oh please. I'd love to hear the explanation for this. Were you two just brainstorming in your underwear? Or was this some sort of team-building exercise?" Her face crumpled, and she started crying, the tears flowing freely now. "I'm sorry, Alex. I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. But it didn't mean anything, I swear." "Didn't mean anything?" I repeated with a bitter laugh. "That's funny because it sure looked like it meant something when you were sneaking around behind my back for months. How many times, Emma? How many times did you lie to my face and think you'd get away with it?" She started to say something, but Sarah stepped forward, cutting her off. "You don't get to play the victim here, Emma. Not after everything you've done." Emma turned to Sarah, her face contorted with a mix of anger and shame. "What are you even doing here? This isn't your business." Sarah let out a cold, humorless laugh. "Oh, it's very much my business when my husband decides to use our marriage as a doormat for his midlife crisis. And guess what, Emma? You're about to see just how much of my business this really is." That's when Mike decided to make his entrance. He'd been standing, letting me and Sarah take the lead, but now he stepped forward, his face a mask of barely contained rage. "You know, Emma," he said, his voice low and dangerous, "I really thought I loved you. I thought we had something special. But then I find out you've been screwing him." He jabbed a finger toward Dave. "And who else, huh? How many more?" "Mike, please," Emma said, her voice breaking. "It wasn't like that. You don't understand." "Oh, I understand just fine," he snapped. "I understand that I was just one stop on your little tour of infidelity. And now you're going to pay for it." Without warning, Mike lunged at Dave, and chaos erupted. Fists flew, furniture toppled, and for a moment, the room was a blur of yelling and crashing. I grabbed Sarah and pulled her back to keep her out of the line of fire, but honestly, I wasn't in a hurry to stop the fight. Let them have at it. Dave deserved every punch he got. Emma screamed, "Stop it! Stop!" But nobody was listening to her anymore. Mike landed a solid hit on Dave's jaw, sending him stumbling into a side table that collapsed under his weight. Dave fought back, swinging wildly, but it was clear he was outmatched. Mike was fueled by pure rage, and he wasn't holding back. While Mike and Dave were busy tearing each other apart, I decided it was the perfect time to deliver my next move. I reached into my bag and pulled out the divorce papers that Sarah had helped me prepare. Ironclad, bulletproof, and ready to be served. "Emma," I said, raising my voice to cut through the chaos. "I think it's time to do this." I held up the papers, letting her see her name at the top in bold print. Her face crumpled again, and she started shaking her head. "No, Alex. Please. Don't do this. We can fix this. I'll do anything. Anything." I repeated with a smirk. "All right. Let's start with this. You're going to walk out of here right now, and leave me the hell alone. You're going to sign these papers without a fight, and you're going to accept the fact that you're walking away with nothing. No house, no savings, nothing." Her lip quivered, and she looked like she might collapse. "But what about the kids?" "The kids stay with me," I said firmly. "You don't get to drag them into this mess you've created." She opened her mouth to argue, but the look on my face must have told her I wasn't bluffing. Instead, she broke down in sobs, sinking onto the couch. Meanwhile, Sarah had her phone out, calmly dialing the police. "Hi, I'd like to report a domestic disturbance at the cabin on Lakeview Road," she said, her voice perfectly steady. "Yes, there's a fight in progress. You might want to send someone quickly." "As much as I'd love to let them go at it," she said to me, her tone sharp and professional, "someone's going to break a bone or worse. And when that happens, we're all going to be dealing with a legal mess. I'm not about to let them drag me into that." "Fair point," I replied, watching as Mike landed a solid right hook to Dave's jaw. "But let's be real, this chaos is already looking like the finale of some trashy reality show." By the time the cops arrived, the fight was starting to fizzle out. Both men were on their feet but wobbling like drunks. Mike was cradling his swollen hand, and Dave's nose was gushing blood. The officers separated them, slapped on some handcuffs, and got the full story from Sarah and me while the cheaters sat there sulking. At the station, things got sorted pretty quickly. After statements were given, the police decided. Dave was fined for disorderly conduct and participating in a fight. Mike got off with a warning, thanks to the emotional circumstances and Sarah's persuasive account of the situation. Once the chaos died down, I made it clear to Emma that I didn't want to see her again. "You can arrange your own ride home," I told her as she sat on the couch, surrounded by the wreckage of her lies. "But don't bother coming back to the house. You've lost that privilege." Sarah and I stood outside as Emma called her sister, her voice shaking as she tried to explain what had happened. I looked at Sarah and offered her a wry smile. "Well, that went about as smoothly as it could have." She chuckled darkly. "I've seen smoother depositions, but hey, at least it's over." "For now," I said, glancing back at the cabin. "But something tells me this is just the beginning for them." Later, I caught up with Mike at a diner. He was sitting across from me, icing his hand, which had ballooned up nicely from the fight. "You planning to press charges against Dave?" I asked, smirking. He let out a bitter laugh, wincing as he flexed his fingers. "Nah. Why bother? I already broke my hand on his thick skull. That's punishment enough." I couldn't help but laugh. "So not only did he ruin your relationship, but he also wrecked your hand? That's karma in action." Mike grinned despite the pain. "Yeah, well, I've got plenty of time now to figure out how to punch better next time." The fallout was swift and brutal, just the way I wanted it. Emma moved in with her sister after that night, but not for long. Once the divorce was finalized, she was on her own. She didn't fight it, she couldn't. The mountain of evidence against her, combined with the ironclad divorce papers Sarah helped draft, left her with nothing. No house, no savings, no custody of the kids. She'd torched her life, and I handed her the ashes. She tried to reach out a few times, tearful texts, late-night voicemails, the usual "I've changed, please take me back" routine. I ignored every single one. The kids stayed with me, and they've been thriving. I'm not the perfect dad, but at least I'm not a lying cheater who spends yoga night in a stranger's bed. Dave's life wasn't much better. Sarah wasted no time dismantling him in court. She hit him with divorce papers, sued him for every penny he was worth, and made sure his reputation was in tatters. As a lawyer, She knew exactly where to twist the knife, and she didn't hold back. Last I heard, he's living in a crummy studio apartment, working odd jobs to make ends meet. Mike? Well, let's just say he had his own redemption arc. After the fight at the cabin, we didn't keep in touch, but I heard through the grapevine that he's doing better. He dumped whatever was left of his relationship with Emma, moved out of town, and started over. Good for him. We weren't exactly friends, but we had a shared enemy, and that was enough. As for me, life's been pretty damn good. The house feels quieter now, but in a good way. No more tension, no more lies, no more yoga nights. Just me and the kids, figuring it out together. I've started dating again, not seriously, but enough to remind myself that there are good people out there. People who don't need drama to feel alive. Sarah and I kept in touch for a while after everything went down. We weren't interested in anything romantic. Our connection was built on shared destruction, not love, but we've stayed friendly. Occasionally, we'll catch up over coffee and laugh about how far we've come. Looking back, I don't regret a thing. I trusted Emma, and she betrayed me. But instead of letting it destroy me, I took control. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: karma doesn't need your help, but sometimes it's nice to give it a push. And me? I'm doing just fine.